good? What's poppin'? Welcome to another episode of that deep shit where we connect the dots. And on today's episode, we're going to take a very close look at the algorithm and what is an algorithm. How does the algorithms pertain and affect you? All right, so let's jump right on in. Okay, so when we look at the word algorithm, let's take a look at the definition according to Google on what algorithm means, all right, as a point of reference, all right. So according to Google, an algorithm is a process or set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations, especially by a computer. All right, so why is this something that we should take a close look at and pay attention to? Well, because if we look at it as being a set of rules to be conducted by a computer, we have to look at what a computer is. And basically, a computer is something that mimics the human mind and the human brain. So the same capabilities that the human mind and human brain have, a computer does. It just does it a little bit more efficiently without hiccups, without roadblocks, because it's a program, right? So if we were to look at the human mind and the human brain perspective, we have to see what the human mind and the human brain is mimicked of itself. The human mind and the human brain is a mimic of the universe itself. Same patterns. It's kind of like a fractal, kind of like a microcosm of a macrocosm, if you will. So if we look at the similarities between the universe, we'll find it into the mind, and then we'll find it into computers. So they have this congruent type of flow to it, all right? So how does an algorithm work? Well, an algorithm works, there is an input. The input goes into a computation or a program, and then as it's programmed and computed, there's an output. So it goes input, computation, output. That's how algorithms work. So there's something that causes it, it does something, and then there's an effect. All right? So if we look at that, if we take that example of how algorithms work, we can see that from every perspective, universe, mind, computer, the algorithm has a consistency between them all. So they're just different perspectives. There's a universal perspective, the mental perspective, and then a computation perspective. So if we look at this in a reference in the movie The Matrix, right? The movie The Matrix, Neo was inside of a program when he was jacked in, and he was chased by algorithms called the agents. But then when he jacked out of the program or the Matrix, he was in the quote unquote real world, but it was still like a program because he had algorithms that was chasing him, trying to find him in the program. The sentinels with the long tentacles like octopuses, those were the algorithms trying to find him in the program. So as you can see, that the algorithm stays consistent no matter what your perspective is. So that's what the movie The Matrix was kind of based on. If we take these applications and look at how they really affect us in real life, because that's what all of this shit is about. If you can't take these lessons or can't take these notes and apply them to real life, then you kind of have to readjust your goals and your perspective, right? Okay, so how can we see the algorithm in real life? So, for example, let's just say in the 1950s, candy cost 10 cents, right? In the 1950s, candy was 10 cents, right? And there was radios, you know, there was no TV. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing, right? And life was really simple, right? People played hopscotch on the streets and double dutch, whatever, right? Okay, so people at that time could not figure or imagine what life would be in the future, but they heard what life was in the past. But at the same time, it is what it is. Their experience was the experience. Fast forward to say the 70s, now candy is 15 cents. 25 cents, 20 cents, right? And people are disco dancing with afros. This is just how the life is. This is how existence is. This is just what it is. You can't really imagine what the future is going to be. You can have an idea, but you don't know. And you kind of heard what the past was. These are examples of how the algorithm, as far as the universe, affects the algorithm of the mind which affects the algorithm of the experience. You see what I'm saying? So your experience is only based off of what the input is being put into by the universal creator or the creator. The universe itself is the program, and it affects your life. So that's the input for you. The effect from the universe is the input for you. Then now you compute something, and then now you have an output, right? And the output is always your experience. So if we fast forward to, let's just say 2020, candy is $3. We have computers that have its own algorithm, right? Which in turn is really an intelligence, right? Computers have its own algorithm. Your experience has created the computer or created its intelligence, and that's just what it is. We can't really see what's going to be in the future. We can imagine it, but it hasn't came yet. So what has happened thus far is that our experience has created another thing, which has its own intelligence. So this intelligence of this algorithm is pretty much consistent. So the universe has an intelligence, you have an intelligence, what we have created from our experience has an intelligence. So it's just a big cycle. We can call what we created artificial intelligence, but what makes us not artificial intelligence compared to the universe? You see what I'm saying? So we're artificial intelligence too. You see what I'm saying? Our experience has made another intelligence, which we deem artificial, but is it? That's the key. So we see this a lot of times when we're surfing on the net, when we're on YouTube. We can see examples of how the algorithm is conducting itself. It's taking our input of what we do, it's learning something, and then it's creating an output. It's doing something. The dangerous part and why this whole thing is important, right? The dangerous part about that is what we have created is now governing us. You see what I'm saying? Not like it's a bad thing, but that's what's happening. We can govern the universe, right? We can do that too, but we don't, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But here's the thing. We can see that our experience has created a computer that is now governing us, right? And we can see this by if we type in, we're trying to get onto a website, and then we type in a CAPTCHA, and it says, well, click on the fire hydrants. We click fire hydrants. We are teaching the algorithm or intelligence, this is a fire hydrant. So now the algorithm lets us through and gives us the rest of our experience. You see what I'm saying? But we are actually programming the programmer that's programming us. We're doing it. You see, and we 9 times out of 10 don't really understand that. When we log on to apps and they ask for permissions, these permissions are algorithms. When we log on to apps and then have them scan our face, these are algorithms. We're feeding this whole chain. It's a big universal blockchain. You understand what I'm saying? We're feeding it though. We're building it ourselves, all right? So if you don't know what a blockchain is, go ahead and do your Googles and check it out. All right, so what else is that? Okay, so basically when we go on YouTube, for example, we go on YouTube and you know what? I'll just show you.
Phil Valentine, Metaphysics of the Matrix, Melanin, and Mind Control. Up next, Judge Joe Brown, Vlad TV. So what happened was the algorithm learned my patterns, didn't want those patterns to take place, and adjusted itself. So if I wanted to watch something that was mindless or some dumb shit or some funny shit or whatever, the algorithm is going to automatically suggest some more funny shit that's very similar, right? So if I tapped on Best TV News Blooper Fails 2017, right? Don't worry about that David Blaine right there. That's an ad. But the next thing that comes up as to play next on the autoplay is Best TV News Blooper Fails number 2. That makes sense because it's a very similar in title, very similar in tags, very similar in subject matter. So it's going to automatically play that. And it don't do that when it comes to knowledge. It don't do that when it comes to knowledge, wisdom, or understanding type videos, because the algorithm deems those things as conspiracy theory videos, and YouTube is not promoting anything that is conspiracy theory, which actually translates to they're not promoting anything knowledge, wisdom, or understanding outside the scope of conventional learning or education.
So yeah, we go on YouTube and we see that if we don't really understand how it works, we can be dictated to, and then our experience has now been altered. Tying this all together and wrapping the video up, why don't you just say something nice and wrap it up? Okay, so the reason why we should really pay close attention to this and really take a look is because if we're not careful, we won't be able to see when we're being programmed by the algorithm, because we can't distinguish the lines of universe, our reality, and the artificial intelligence. We don't know where there's lines. It's all becoming a blur. It's all becoming one blockchain. Okay, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, and I'll get to that in a minute. So, for example, depending on what you watch on social media, TV, if you still watch TV, listen to the radio, what have you, what you'll find out, you'll be programmed to what your experience is. So if you never watch TV, you don't know that Donald Trump is acting a damn fool right now. But if you do watch TV, that is part of your experience, so now that's what it is. If you follow the whole Rona fiasco, then you're looking at that, and that's now your reality. If you don't pay attention to any of these things, these are not necessarily your reality. You see what I'm saying? So your reality is being given to you, and you have to be very, very mindful and very, very careful about these things. Okay, so why is this important, family? I was trying not to say that shit the whole video. It's hella hard, right? So shout out to YP. Right, so the reason why is because this is how you actually become Neo. This is how you actually become quote unquote psychic, or use your ability. See, everybody is psychic, okay? Psychic isn't some mystical, magical thing, all right? So basically, understanding the algorithm or artificial intelligence automatically makes you quote unquote see, or be a seer or psychic.
I don't know about right or wrong, but I can see you sure have a problem when it comes to getting to the point.